There was a time I walked into a room and no one looked up, not because they didn't see me, but because they chose not to. You see, there's a kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, it comes from loneliness. And I knew that silence. I was the woman with no friends, not because I was unkind, not because I was incapable of love or laughter or long conversations at 2 a.m. There's a moment in every woman's life when the noise fades. The voices go silent, the texts stop coming, the door stays closed a little too long, and the loneliness creeps in, not like a storm loud and sudden, but like a slow, cold fog. It wraps around her skin, settles into her bones, and whispers lies that sound like truth. You're alone because you're not enough. You're alone because you're hard to love. You're alone because something is wrong with you. And for a while, she believes it. She believes it because we've been conditioned to believe that our worth is measured by how full our table is, how many people clap when we speak, or how many birthday wishes light up our phones. But what if we've been taught wrong? What if solitude isn't the absence of love or connection, but the birthplace of real power? What if the stillness isn't a punishment, but a path? There's something incredibly raw about sitting with your own silence. When no one else is there to drown out the thoughts, you hear them clearly. You meet yourself, not the version that's filtered through other people's expectations, not the girl who tries to keep the peace, not the woman who softens her brilliance to keep a seat at someone else's table. No, you meet the real you, and for many of us, that's terrifying because we were never taught to truly know her. But once you do, once you start having those difficult conversations with the woman in the mirror, you begin to understand something sacred. You start to realize that solitude is not a void. It's a mirror, a teacher, a sanctuary. In solitude, you don't just find out who you are, you decide who you want to become. You begin to hear your own voice, your real voice, without the distortion of others' opinions. And for the first time, you understand your values, your standards, your passions, not the ones you adopted to fit in, but the ones that were born in your soul. The silence that once felt like a punishment becomes a sacred space where you evolve, where you stop performing and start living. You start setting boundaries, not to keep people out, but to protect the peace you worked so hard to find. You stop chasing validation, not because you no longer care, but because you've finally given it to yourself. You realize you are your own home, your own safety net, your own sanctuary. And when you walk into rooms alone, it's not with emptiness, but with a quiet, unshakable confidence that says, I belong even if no one else says I do. The world often mistakes solitude for weakness. They call a woman alone lost, broken, too much to handle, but they don't see what's being built inside her. They don't see the strength she's developing in silence. They don't see how many battles she's fought with no one watching, how many nights she wiped her own tears, how many dreams she nurtured alone in the dark. They don't see that while the crowd was busy overlooking her, she was building herself. A woman in solitude is not a woman abandoned. She is a woman becoming. She is a woman learning that her power is not dependent on applause, that her joy does not need an audience, and that her strength was never about who stood beside her. It was always about how she stood up on her own. And when she finally walks back into the world, she's different. Not louder, not colder, just clearer. She no longer begs to be chosen. She no longer tolerates being half loved. She no longer fears her own company. Because she knows now deeply, unshakably, that being alone never made her less. It made her whole. There is a pain that comes not from what others do to you, but from what you do to yourself just to be accepted. It's the silent ache of dimming your light so it doesn't make others uncomfortable, of shrinking your spirit, softening your voice, erasing your brilliance just to fit into spaces that were never built to hold all of you. We've all done it, haven't we? Held back that idea in a meeting because we didn't want to sound too ambitious. Smiled politely when someone disrespected us because we didn't want to be labeled difficult. Stayed quiet about our dreams because we were afraid they'd call us delusional. And the worst part, we convinced ourselves it was survival, but let's call it what it really is: self-abandonment. It starts small. You give up little parts of yourself, your opinions, your joy, your laughter, your boundaries in exchange for a seat at the table. You tell yourself it's only temporary. You'll speak up next time. You'll wear what you love next time. You'll stop apologizing next time. But next time never comes because the world has already decided what version of you it's comfortable with. And you keep feeding it that version, quieter, simpler, more palatable, while burying the real you deeper under layers of fake smiles and swallowed truths. But let me ask you, what's the point of being liked if it costs you who you are? What are you really gaining by being accepted for a version of yourself that's been edited, filtered, and dimmed? The truth is, fitting in is not belonging. Fitting in is performing. Belonging is being seen. Belonging is being loved without needing to shrink, and you don't find that kind of belonging by bending yourself into shapes that make others comfortable. You find it by standing in your truth, even if your voice shakes. Even if the room goes quiet, even if it means standing alone for a while, when you stop shrinking, something radical happens. You start breathing, you start laughing without asking for permission, you start saying no without guilt. You start saying yes to yourself, and yes, people will talk. They always do. They'll call you too loud, too bold, too intimidating, but they're only saying that because they got used to the version of you that was easier to control. The version that made them feel bigger by being small, but you weren't born to be small. You weren't made to tiptoe through life just to keep the peace. You were made to disrupt, to inspire, to lead. To light up rooms not by being perfect, but by being real. You were made to walk in like you own your space, like your voice matters, like your dreams belong because they do. Stop making yourself smaller for people who are afraid of your power. If they can't handle your full volume, let them step out of the room. If they're uncomfortable with your truth, let them look away. You do not exist to make other people feel safe with mediocrity. You are here to take up space. Yes, it's hard. Yes, people will walk away, but let them, because every time you shrink yourself, you're sending a message to the world that your truth isn't worth hearing. And every time you choose to rise, even when it's hard, you're teaching the world how to treat you. You are not too much. You are not too loud. You are not too intense. You are not too ambitious. You are exactly as you were meant to be, and the world needs every inch of you. Your story, your fire, your voice, your vision. Stop shrinking, not because the world tells you to grow, but because your soul is suffocating in the box you were never meant to fit in. You don't need to be less to be loved. You don't need to dim to be seen. The right people will never ask you to become small. They will celebrate your expansion. The ones who matter won't just tolerate your truth, they'll honor it. And the ones who don't, let them go. You weren't made to fit in. You were born to stand out fully, fiercely, unapologetically you. There's a strange emptiness that comes with applause. You think it will fill the void. You think once they finally see you, once they finally recognize your worth, the ache inside your chest will disappear. And for a moment it does. But then the lights go down, the crowd leaves, and you're left alone again, wondering if you were ever enough without the noise. That's the trap, isn't it? Being fed on approval like it's oxygen. Measuring your value by someone else's reactions. Holding your head high only when someone else gives you a reason to. And the saddest part is, we're taught to live this way. Taught to look outside for what should have always come from within. Taught to ask the world, do I matter? Do I look okay? Did I do enough? Am I enough? Until we don't even know who we are without their answers. But let me tell you something no one told me soon enough. You don't need permission to believe in your own magic. You don't need a round of applause to make your work worthy. You don't need likes, claps, compliments, or congratulations to be extraordinary. You just need you. Validation is not a gift someone gives you. It's a responsibility you give yourself. It's waking up in the morning, looking in the mirror and saying, I'm proud of who I'm becoming, even if no one else says it, even if the world is silent, even if the people you expected to stand beside you don't show up. You show up for yourself, because when you live on external validation, you are always one bad day away from forgetting your worth, one criticism away from falling apart, one rejection away from questioning your entire identity. That's not power, that's dependence. That's putting your soul in the hands of people who don't even know your heart. Validation starts when you choose to stop asking the world, "Am I good enough?" and start declaring, "I am." Not because you've achieved perfection, but because you finally understand that your value was never tied to your productivity, your appearance, or anyone's approval. Your value is yours. It was there the day you were born. It lives in your resilience, in your kindness, in your courage to rise again and again, especially when no one claps. And yes, it's hard. It's hard to believe in yourself when your inbox is empty, when the phone doesn't ring, when your efforts go unnoticed, when your story feels invisible. But that is exactly when it matters the most. That's when you build your backbone. That's when you learn the sacred art of holding yourself the way you've held everyone else. When you validate yourself first, something shifts. You stop looking for love in places that have none to give. You stop waiting for someone else to see your light before you let it shine. You stop apologizing for your standards, your dreams, your truth. Because now you understand their silence doesn't define you, their rejection doesn't break you, their absence doesn't erase you. You become the voice that says, "I see you, I hear you, I love you." And it changes everything. That kind of self-trust can't be faked. It radiates from within. It walks into rooms and changes the temperature. It builds boundaries that are not walls but gates, sacred, intentional, strong. It lets you clap for yourself when no one else will. It lets you take the risk, make the leap, show up again and again because you're no longer chasing validation. You're building a legacy. And when you start to live like that, rooted, grounded, sure of who you are, the right people find you. The right energy surrounds you, not because you needed it to survive, but because you no longer needed it to exist. You become whole. Validate yourself first, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. Out of love, out of the unshakable truth that the world may forget your name, misread your heart, overlook your worth, but you will never again forget who you are. And that is the beginning of unstoppable. There's a loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from standing in a crowded room and realizing no one truly sees you. Smiling, laughing, talking, but feeling invisible. You could be surrounded by people and still feel like you're screaming in silence. That kind of loneliness cuts deep. It makes you question your worth, your place in the world, your purpose. It makes you wonder if something is wrong with you. Why does it feel like you're always on the outside looking in? Why does connection feel so far away? But what no one tells you is that this loneliness, the one that breaks you down quietly, it's not here to destroy you. It's here to awaken you. We are conditioned to believe that being alone is something to fear. That if you're not constantly surrounded by people, if your phone isn't buzzing, if your social calendar isn't full, then something must be missing. But what if nothing is missing? What if loneliness is not a curse but a calling? There is a sacred transformation that happens in the space between who you were and who you're becoming. And that space, it often feels like loneliness. It feels like silence, rejection, absence. But in that silence, something extraordinary happens. You hear yourself. Your real self, not the one who's always trying to please, perform, or pretend. The one who exists beneath all the noise, the one who's been waiting for you to come home. When you're alone, you face yourself fully, honestly, without distraction. That's where the work begins. That's where the healing starts, in the quiet, in the ache, in the moments where no one texts back and no one shows up. That's where you begin to build something no one can take away from you, your power. Because loneliness teaches you to become your own anchor. It teaches you how to comfort yourself, how to fight for yourself, how to show up for yourself when no one else does. It strips away the need to be chosen, the craving to be liked, the desperation to be seen. And in its place, it plants something deeper: self-trust, self-respect, self-worth. Not the kind that comes from attention or praise, but the kind that's forged in fire, the kind that's built when you've survived nights no one knows about. There's a version of you that only emerges through solitude, the strong one, the unapologetic one, the one who's done waiting for the world to give her permission to rise. When you sit with your loneliness long enough, you stop fearing it. You begin to understand it. You start to see it not as an enemy, but as a mirror. It shows you what you've ignored. It reveals what you truly need, and it dares you to become everything you've been looking for in someone else. Loneliness teaches you that you can walk into a room alone and still own it, that you can build your dream even when no one claps for you, that your story is still worthy even if no one is listening right now. Because real power doesn't come from being surrounded, it comes from being centered, from knowing who you are when no one's watching, from loving yourself enough to keep going even when the world is silent. You stop chasing people who make you feel disposable. You stop begging for crumbs when you were born to feast. You stop settling for half-hearted friendships and lukewarm love, because you've tasted your own strength, and now you crave nothing less than truth, depth, and realness. And one day, the loneliness that once made you cry will become the silence you crave to refuel your spirit. You'll look back and realize that season of isolation, that was your rebirth. That was where you became the woman who doesn't flinch when left behind, because she knows she can never truly be alone when she has herself. Loneliness is not your weakness, it's your wilderness, and in that wilderness, you don't just survive. You rise. There comes a moment in every strong woman's life when she realizes that not everyone will walk with her, not everyone will understand her journey, not everyone will clap when she wins or cry when she bleeds. And for a long time, that realization stings. It stings because we're human. We want connection, we want support, we want to be held. We want someone beside us saying, "I've got you." But sometimes the path you're meant to walk is one only your feet can touch. And the moment you stop waiting for someone to come with you, that's when you truly begin to rise. You see, walking alone doesn't mean you're unloved. It means you're brave enough to leave behind what no longer serves your soul. It means you've stopped watering one-sided friendships, begging for bare minimum love, or shrinking your light just to keep company. It means you've chosen yourself, and that is not loneliness. That is liberation. This world teaches women to be afraid of walking alone. We're told our worth is tied to how many people choose us, follow us, stay with us. But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud: walking alone is where the real power lies. When there's no one else to lean on, you learn to lean into yourself. You stop depending on applause to feel seen. You stop craving hands to hold you up, and start building the strength to stand on your own. And slowly, something inside you changes. Your steps get louder, your voice gets bolder, your spirit becomes unshakable. Because once you've walked alone through the fire, through heartbreak, through disappointment, through silence, and still kept going, there's nothing the world can throw at you that you can't handle. You become the woman who doesn't just survive storms, she commands them. You become the woman who walks into rooms where no one knows her name and still leaves a mark. You become the woman who doesn't wait for a seat at the table because she's already building her own. And yes, there will be moments of doubt. There will be nights when you ache for someone to understand you, to stand beside you, to simply say, "You're not alone." But in those moments, you'll remember you've been your own strength before. You've carried yourself through days that should have broken you. You've laughed through tears, danced through chaos, and rebuilt yourself from ruins. You are not unfamiliar with solitude. You've made it your sanctuary. Walking alone sharpens your vision. It clears the noise. It separates who's real from who's convenient. And it teaches you that peace is better than proximity, that just because someone is next to you doesn't mean they're for you. Sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is walk away from the familiar, from the expected, from the people who don't see your worth, and still hold your head high, still keep your heart soft, still choose your purpose over your popularity. You don't rise by being surrounded. You rise by being grounded in who you are, what you believe, and where you're going. And that kind of grounding only happens in solitude. When the noise fades, when the crowd disappears, when it's just you and the road ahead, that's when the transformation begins. So yes, walk alone, walk fiercely, Walk with your scars showing and your truth louder than ever. Walk without fear, because fear is what kept you small. Walk unshaken, because your foundation isn't built on approval anymore. It's built on experience, resilience, and the unbreakable bond you've formed with yourself. And when people look at you and say, "She changed," smile, because yes, you did. You stopped waiting, you stopped explaining, you stopped needing, you started living fully, freely, unapologetically. Walk alone, not because you have to, but because you can, and when you do, walk like a woman who knows no matter who leaves, no matter who doubts, no matter who stays behind, she will rise every single time. There's a moment, maybe it happens at 2 a.m. when the world is asleep, or maybe it comes during the chaos of the day when you pause and ask yourself, why me? Why did I have to go through this? Why did I have to feel this much, hurt this deeply, lose this often? Why was my path filled with more detours, more silence, more goodbyes than anyone else's? We've all been there trying to rewrite our past in our minds, trying to edit out the parts that scarred us, trying to fast forward through the pain as if we can trade it in for something prettier, something easier. But let me tell you something that might shake you. Your story, exactly as it is, was never a mistake. Not the heartbreak, not the betrayal, not the failure, not the time you broke down on the bathroom floor, not the friendships that ended, not the seasons you spent alone, not the rejections, not the silence, not even the moments you thought you'd never get back up again. None of it was a mistake, because every chapter you tried to rip out, that's the same chapter someone else is going to read one day and say, if she survived that, maybe I can too. You see, your story holds power not in spite of its darkness, but because of it. You didn't just go through pain, you grew through it. You didn't just experience struggle, you were shaped by it, molded in it, refined by it, and no matter how messy or broken it looked from the outside, it made you who you are now, unshakable, bold, and beautifully whole. You are not here to be perfect, you are here to be real. You are here to show others that it's okay to stumble, to fall, to feel deeply, to lose your way and still rise again. You are not weak for what you went through. You are strong because you lived through it. Your scars aren't shameful. They are proof that you were here, that you fought, that you bled, that you healed, and that you didn't give up when everything inside you was screaming to. This world tries to convince us that only polished stories are worthy. Only highlight reels, only victories, only smiles. But that's not real life. Real life is messy. It's raw. It's the nights you cried into your pillow and still got up for work the next day. It's the friendships you had to mourn even though they never gave you closure. It's the dreams you buried quietly because no one believed in them but you. And guess what? That's exactly where your power lies. Your story, the full, unedited, flawed, and radiant version, is your superpower because no one else has lived it, no one else has carried your weight, no one else has seen the world through your lens. And no one else can tell it like you can. There is someone out there who needs your truth, who needs your voice, who needs to hear what you once thought you had to hide. Because when you share your story, you don't just free yourself, you free others too. Stop apologizing for your journey. Stop wishing it looked like hers or theirs. You weren't meant to follow their map. You were meant to blaze your own trail, and yes, it may be slower, it may be lonelier. It may be filled with detours you didn't choose, but it's yours, and that makes it sacred. When you own your story, you stop begging for validation. You stop needing everyone to understand. You stop carrying shame for where you've been. You start walking into rooms with your head high, because you know every heartbreak, every failure, every loss brought you here, to this moment, to this version of you, the version that refuses to be silent anymore. The version that doesn't flinch when someone tries to dim her light, the version that walks in truth even when her voice trembles. Your story is not a mistake, it's a masterpiece in progress, and you are the author who never gave up on her own pages. If that's you, if you've ever felt invisible, discarded, misunderstood, I want you to know something. You are not alone in your loneliness and your silence. It holds power, your pain, it is shaping you, your solitude, it is your fire. Don't chase the crowd, Build your crown, rise for yourself, because a woman who rises alone becomes a woman the world can't ignore. Today, I'm not asking you to be fearless. I'm asking you to be brave anyway, to walk into that room, stand tall, and if no one claps, clap for yourself. Because you, my darling, are not just a woman with no friends, you are a force with no limits.